Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. John W. Wilson III, bringing you the Sunday School lesson for Sunday, June the 5th, 2022. Again, thank you for joining me. The title of the lesson is God's Destruction Foretold. Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. John W. Wilson III, bringing you the Sunday School lesson for June 5th, 2022. Thank you for joining me. The title of our lesson is God Foretells Destruction. Will come from the book of Isaiah, chapter 47. Our primary verses will be 10 through 15. But to have proper context, I will cover 1 through 9 also. Thank you again for joining me. If you find out this lesson is beneficial to you and you think that it may benefit other people, please hit the subscribe button, the share button, and the like button. And if God so moves you, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. So let's get started in this lesson. Look at the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, but let's get into a little background. We have Isaiah was a 8th century prophet. He prophesied in the 700s BC. He was situated in and around Jerusalem. Isaiah was a father and had children, at least one child. He prophesied in Jerusalem, which meant that he was a prophet of the southern kingdom. Well, by the time he prophesied this message here, either the northern kingdom was destroyed or in jeopardy from its nearby enemies. So we have Isaiah bringing the lesson today. And one thing that we have to understand, during his time, Assyria was the enemy. The big enemy. They were the national threat. They were the world power. The Assyrians were known for their cruelty. They were brutal people. If you remember how much Jonah hated the Assyrians, he hated them because of their cruelty and how they treated the people of Israel. So this is a setting in which Isaiah is prophesying. Now, the book of Isaiah is 66 chapters, but is broken up in 3 sections or 3 different time periods in which he is prophesying. Chapters 1 through 39, his audience is his contemporaries, people that live with him, his peers. People are worried about the Assyrian army. They are extremely powerful. They're concerned. And then chapters 40 through 55, he's prophesying into the future. And his audience are those Jews who are in exile in Babylon. Now his audience, also his current audience, because they can learn something too. But in that chapters 40 through 55, primary audience are people who are yet to be born 150 years later, that will be in the 6th century, around the 585 or something around that time there. The next passage or breakup is chapters 56 through 66. That is preached or prophesied to those Jews coming out of exile and future generations. All right? So, this lesson that we're talking about today is to those who are in exile, who will one day be oppressed by or held in captivity by the Babylonian nation. Isaiah is a major prophet. When you hear the word major prophet, it's not talking about whether one prophet is superior than the other or one is more inspired than another one. What it's talking about is the volume of work. He has 66 chapters. That's a large volume of work, and that puts him in the category of a major prophet. And so what we have here is we come to chapter 47. In chapter 46, Isaiah has talked about what God is going to do, or how God feels about the gods of the Babylonian nation. And then as we go to 47, Isaiah is going to talk about how God feels about the nation itself and the people itself and the culture itself. So we're in a more personal chapter here in 47. So let's get into this lesson here. One thing that runs through the book of Isaiah is that God's unsurpassing power, God's sovereignty. No matter how big or great you think you are, God is greater. No matter how big or great you are, God will take you down. Judgment is coming your way. The Babylonians were known for their arrogance. They were known for their materialism. They were known for their luxury living, their lifestyle, partying, all those type of things. Another word for Babylon is worldliness or the flesh, because that's what they catered to. In the Babylonian culture, they practiced or were interested in astronomy, looking at the stars, looking at the heavens, gazing into the galaxies. That led them to have a tremendous passion for astrology. Astrology was a magical art that they used by studying the heavens, by studying the movements of the stars, the movements of the moons, the divisions in the heavens, to predict the future or to guide them in their decision making. They worshiped the stars. They worshiped the moons. This was their culture. This is what they did. And so as we look at this lesson, we'll find that God refers that to evil and refers it to wickedness. He refers it to the great deception. But the astrology was bred into this culture. Almost like our horoscopes is bred into our culture today in America and other countries. People, even Christians, read their horoscope each and every day or as often as they can, hoping for some good sign or some good news that their day will be good or some fortune will come their way or their future is bright. And the horoscope is based on astrology, the movement of the stars, the sign of the stars, the moons, the divisions in the heavens. And so God does not like that. He in fact, he calls it an abomination. It's detestable to him. Okay? So that's a little bit of a backdrop of what's going on. So as we come to 47, the context is Babylon has been sitting high. They've been a world leader. Things have been going their way. But the judgment of the Lord is coming. And God is not so much predicting through Isaiah when it will happen. That's not the point. The point is God's sovereignty, his power, his ability to defeat any and every enemy of Israel. But the idea is to start looking toward who's gonna bring them down. We know ultimately Persia is, but that's not the point here. And we're not really looking for when it's going to happen. The idea is that we want to see how great God is and how God can defeat even those who think they're undefeatable. That's the key thing there. Just remember that. So, as we get, we're going to look at verse 1. I just believe that going 1 through 15 will help you understand it better than starting at verse 10. So, come down and sit in this dust, O virgin, daughter of Babylon. Come down, come from your throne, come off your high horse, come off your royalty. You're on top of the world. Come down and sit in the dust. In other words, God is bringing them down from the highest pinnacle in the world, greatest nation in the world, the most powerful nation at that time, and bringing them down to the dust, which is the lowest point in the world, the lowest a nation can get. Dust and ashes. Sit in the dust. Don't sit in the throne. Sit in the dust. O virgin, a virgin daughter. Virgin daughter was protected, undefiled, that wasn't used to the harshness of life or the harsh realities of life. They lived a sheltered life. For a virgin daughter, everything tended to go her way. She was innocent. Bad things did not happen to them. So Babylon was used to things going their way. They were used to living a certain way, and they could not dream of living any other way than that. So God uses an old virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground without a throne. I'm taking you from that position that you love so much, that position of not being protected, that position of living in luxury and lavishly, that position of being not in danger, that position of being excluded from the harsh realities of life. And now I'm taking you from the throne and I'm telling you to sit on the ground where you would experience the harsh realities of life, where you will experience not having protection, where you will experience an impure life, a defiled life, where you'll be just like everyone else, if not worse. Sit on the ground without a throne. Judgment, that's what he's talking about. Judgment is coming to Babylon. O daughter of Chaldeans. Chaldeans is another word for Babylon. Chaldeans is where they're from, and it is another name for Babylon. For you shall no more be called tender and delicate. No longer called tender and delicate, meaning protected and living in luxury and privileged and all of those things. Untouchable. Not going to be called that anymore. Now, they go from that idea to the ground. The next picture that Isaiah paints is that once they're on the ground, they take the form of a slave. It says, take the millstones and grind flour. Put off your veil. Millstones was heavy labor. Slave girls grind the flour, the grains. It was a menial task. It was reserved for slave girls. So this daughter that's used to luxury, not having to work for anything, not having to want for anything, now becomes a slave and is grinding grains of flour. It says, put off your veil. That veil that dealt with royalty, that hides your face. Now your face will be seen. All that fancy clothing you will wear no more. Strip off your robe, the robe of royalty and privilege and wealth. Take that off, because you will be no more. You will no longer be wealthy. You will no longer have privilege. You will no longer wear the fancy garments. Uncover your legs. Now you're going to look like a slave girl. Uncover your legs. Pass through the rivers. The slave girl had to walk through the river, get her feet and legs wet. This daughter of the Chaldeans, this daughter of Babylon, was not used to walking through the river and getting wet. They were carried or transported across the river, but that's no longer. They will now have to uncover their legs to pass through the rivers. They are losing every sense of a luxury or amenity or privilege that they had before. They're going to be like slaves. God's judgment is coming upon them because they're proud. They were arrogant. They felt they didn't need God. They took success and counted it as their own. And we have to be careful about that when we have success, how we handle our success, or God can quickly take it away. I don't care if you're a Christian or not a Christian. If we handle it incorrectly, God can take it away. If we're puffed up about our position in life, how many times have we seen overnight God take that away? Our families are destroyed overnight. Wealth is taken away overnight. Privilege is taken away overnight. If we become puffed up about it, abuse the privilege that God has given us, God can take it away. So we it says, your nakedness shall be uncovered, and your disgrace shall be seen. You shall be naked, unclothed, embarrassed, humiliated, and you'll be disgraced. Everybody will see your disgrace. You no longer be able to cover yourself up with clothes. You'll wear the scant clothing of a slave girl. I will take vengeance, and I will spare one. God is saying, I am the one who's going to do this. You're going to think it's another nation or another type of people, but you need to know I am the one who's going to do this. It's my vengeance. It's my righteous judgment. I'm not doing this in emotion. I'm not doing this in haste, but I'm exacting the punishment and judgment upon you, and I will spare no one. It will touch everyone. Our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, is his name. The person who's doing this is that old little God of Judah that you thought so little of. He's the one that's going to do this to you. Our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, is the Holy One of Israel. The God of Israel is going to take you down. The one that you least thought could do it to you is going to take you down. You're going to think it's somebody else, but I am working behind the scenes, but it's me driving everything for your judgment and your destruction. Sit in silence and go in darkness, O daughter of Chaldeans. You're in disgrace, you're in embarrassment. Get out of the limelight. Get out of people's views. Your judgment is coming, O daughter of Chaldeans. For you shall be no more called the mistress of kingdoms. Sit in silence. Go in darkness. Hide. Run. You're in disgrace. You're ashamed. You say, you shall no more be called the mistress of kingdoms. That means the queen mother of kingdoms. You'll be no longer called the most dominant nation on earth. You will not be called the world power. People will no longer fear you anymore. The Chaldeans, the Babylonians, they conquered nation after nation, and they conquered hundreds of nations. They had a lot of nations under them, but no, they will no longer be called the queen mother of nations, the queen mother of kingdoms. No longer be called that way. And God's going to give them a reason why this judgment is coming upon them. Okay? God is rational. He explains it. He's going to tell them right here. I was angry with my people. I was angry with the people of Israel. They worship idols. They betrayed me. They lied to me. They got caught up in the world. I was angry with my people. I profaned my heritage in bringing judgment with them. Meaning that I disgraced my name to bring them judgment. I made myself look bad to bring them judgment. I gave them into your hand. You think you conquered them. But in reality, as a part of bringing judgment upon them, I gave them into your hands. A lot of times we think that the success that we have in life is because of something that we did, or something we earned, or something we figured out. But in reality, it's God giving that to you. When we defeat our enemies, It's not us. It's God defeating the enemies for us. So we have to, if you're smart, if you're wise, if we are wise, if we are smart, when we experience success or when God blesses us, we remain humble, knowing that it's God working behind the scenes to make this happen. There's nothing that we really did. We've just been an instrument of God. And God calls us to be humble and causes us to give him the glory. The Babylonians didn't know God. They didn't give him glory. They didn't know to give him glory. So they took the glory themselves. And now they're becoming under judgment. Since I gave them into your hand, you showed them no mercy. You abused the privilege in which I gave you. You abused it. You treated the old elderly harshly. You put a yoke around their neck. On the age, you made your yoke exceedingly heavy. For your pleasure, for all that you want, you mistreated the age. A society is often judged how it treats its children or the unborn, and how it's treated elderly. In this case here, they abused the elderly, which is the indication of how evil this nation was. You said, I shall be mistress forever. I shall be queen mother forever. So that you did not lay these things to heart or remember their end. You did all these things thinking that something would never happen to you. You did all of this evil, abusing all of these people, thinking that you would be on top forever. A lot of times when we're successful, when God has blessed us, not only do we think that we did it ourselves, we think that it's always going to be this way. We think that we're always going to have this money, we're always going to have this lifestyle, we're always going to have this health, we're always going to have a drama-free life. We think we're always going to have this. But as you know, life is not like that. Things don't always go our way. Things always have to come to an end. The Assyrian army nation, they were in power for 300 years. And so these Babylonians conquered a nation that had been the world power for 300 years, that people thought that were unbeatable, that could not be conquered. And when they defeated them, or when God really used them to judge the Assyrians, they became puffed up, and they thought that they would have at least 300 to 500 years of perpetuity as the world power. And God said, you miscalculated. I am in control. You said, I shall be a mistress forever. That you did not lay these things to heart or remember their end. Now therefore, because you thought this way, or you're thinking this way, now therefore hear this, you lovers of pleasure who sit securely. You beat this great nation, fine. You get all their wealth, fine. You think you're secure, fine. You're going to find out that you're not. He said, these people who sit securely in their wealth, in their pleasure. It says here, who say in their heart, I am, and there's no one besides me. I shall not sit as a window. They thought that I am. That's a statement from God. Earlier in Isaiah, God is quoted by saying, I am, and there's no one besides me. They thought that no one could touch them. There was no enemy out there that could defeat them. They thought they would reign forever. Costly mistake. That's what arrogance and pridefulness will do. You'll start thinking more of yourself and less about God, instead of thinking more about God and less about yourself. So you're thinking that they're on top of the world, unbeatable, untouchable. No one can defeat them. This said, I shall not sit as a window. It said, things that happen to other nations will not happen to me. The other nations, we conquer them. We kill a lot of their husbands, and there are a lot of widows. And know the loss of children. We also kill a lot of children. So they're acknowledging what they've done. I shall not sit as a window or know the loss of children. God says this through Isaiah. These two things that you take this great pride in, not sit as a widow, and not know the loss of children, These two things shall come to you in a moment. Meaning these two things that you dread or that you take pride in will happen to you in a moment, in one day. The loss of children and widowhood shall come to you upon you in full measure. What does that mean? When Babylon is destroyed by Persia, Cyrus, it was a sneak attack. Babylonians had a fortress around them they thought was impenetrable, that no one could get in. The Persians found a way to get through the water system, cut it off, and they were able to get in. And when they got in, they found out the Babylonians was partying, having a great time, enjoying life's pleasure. Remember, Babylon means flesh. It means worldliness. And they were everything that did that. And so to their demise, the attack came upon them while they were partying and having a good time. They never saw it coming. And people were killed, children and men and women. And so and lost it. And so they became, or they experienced loss of children, and they experienced widowhood. And they experienced it in full measure. In spite of your many sorceries, your spells, your rituals, your worship of the stars, your predictions, all of those things, and the great power of your enchantments, all those words you have to say and all that, you went down, or you're going down in spite of all of those things. You're going down. Okay? Those things will not be able to help you. Okay? It says you felt secure in your wickedness. You felt secure in your wickedness. I mean, you felt secure in your magical arts. You felt secure in your spells, in your worship of the stars, and the worship of the moons. You felt secure in all of those things. It says, and you said, no one sees me. You thought no one saw the evil that you did. No one was holding you accountable to how you were treating other people. You thought that you were unapproachable. You thought you were God yourself. Your wisdom and your knowledge led you astray. All that studying the stars, all that worshiping the stars, all that astrology, all those things, the horoscope and everything else, that wisdom that you pride so much led you astray. And you said in your heart, I am, and there's no one beside me. So you said, again, I am, and there's no one beside me. You thought, no one's going to come my way. No one's going to come my way. And you said before that, no one sees me. And you said how wise I am, how knowledgeable I am. And it says, look what it says here, but evil shall come upon you. He says, although you say no one sees me, although you say I am and that no one's beside me, God says this, but evil shall come upon you. In spite of all of this, your power, your false worship, your astrology, your knowledge, your wisdom that you think you have, evil shall come upon you, which you will not know how to charm away. This evil will be so great. You'll try to use spells, look at the stars, look at the moons, you have try to have rituals, you try to have sacrifices, you'll try all these things. And all that charming and saying the right words, God, please forgive me, or God, I'll do better, or God, I'm a child of yours, or God this and God that, and God this and please do this. It won't work. It won't work because God will know your heart. God will know that if He were to save you or deliver you from this judgment, immediately you would go back to doing what you would do, which was worship the stars and the moons and the heavens. And so here, you will not be able to charm away. Disaster shall fall upon you. That means that it will happen without a doubt. Isaiah is predicting this 150 years later. He's doing this to bring comfort to the people of Israel that will be in captivity. Let them know that it will not last forever. They will not be in captivity forever. That God will raise up another nation and God will bring judgment upon the Babylonians. He's bringing them comfort. Okay? It says, disaster will fall upon you for which you will not be able to atone. You will not be able to have your sins covered. You will not be able to receive forgiveness. You will not be able to offer enough rams and bulls as sacrifices to make it go away, and ruin shall come upon you suddenly. You will fall quickly. You will be destroyed quickly, in a moment, in an instant, of which you know nothing. You won't even see it coming. You don't even know it's about to happen. That's how bad, that's how quick and bad it will be. Verse 12 says, stand fast in your enchantments. God begins to mock them, make fun of them, challenge them. Stand in your enchantments, stand in your words, your spells, your magical wisdom. Stand in that. That's what you believe in. Stand in that. See how far that will take you. Stand in not only your enchantments, stand in your many sorceries, okay? Your spells, your calculations, your predictions, which you have labored from your youth, which you have known all your life. Stand in that. You put your trust in that. See how far that will take you. See if that will get you out of this situation. See if that will take you out of your judgment. Perhaps you may be able to succeed. God is laughing. He's mocking. He's really saying you will not succeed. But try it anyway. See it'll happen. See what will go on. He says, perhaps you will succeed. Perhaps you may inspire terror. God's laughing because he said that you will not escape this judgment. You will not succeed. And you, those magical arts, all those things that you do will not scare anybody, especially me, the one who's inflicting judgment on you. Okay. You were wearied with all your many counsels. You are weary with all your many counsels. When this starts to happen, you'll start going to your counsel, your astrologists, and all those soothsayers, and all those type of people, those magicians and all them. And you'll look for them for counsel and ask them, what should you do? And you'll be able to ask them over and over again. They will not have the answer. And you will worry yourself by constantly asking them, and they won't be able to save you. Let them stand, God said, let them stand forth and save you. Those people you put your trust in, put them on the front line and see if they will save you. They will not be able to save you. He said, those who divide the heavens, who gaze at the stars and at the new moons, make known what shall come upon you. Go to them and see what they'll do for you in the time of judgment. They will not be able to do a thing for you. They will not be able to help you. God is mocking them because the Babylonians put heavy emphasis on this worship of the stars and the moons and the heavens. They gave their total existence to that. They gave their total success to that. And God says, see if all that will save you from me. Remember, the idea is God is proving or showing them that God reigns supreme. He's greater than any enemy or anything that Israel may face. Verse 14, behold, they are like stubble that fire consumes them. These soothsayers, these magicians, these astrologists, all them, they're like stubble. They're like ground that had little things sticking out, just weak and frail. The fire consumes them. This judgment will consume them. They cannot and will not be able to deliver themselves from the power of the flame. Then he goes on to say, this type of flame will not be a warming flame. It will not be a soothing flame. It will not be the type that you sit in front of like a campfire. This fire will be a destructive flame. It will destroy them, and they will not be able to do anything about it. And it says here, such to you are those who with you have labored, okay? Who have done business with you from your youth. They wander about each in its own direction. There is no one to save you. Everybody will be destroyed. Okay? It says, such to you are those whom you have labored, meaning that you have worked with. You have worked side by side. You have partnered with. We have done business with. with you from your youth. Some people think the business may mean people you're trading with in the past for a very long time. They will go down too. They will not be able to help you. But I think what it means is that in Babylon, the astrology was big business. Being a soothsayer, a predictor, or a fortune teller was big business. People paid money to have their fortunes told. That was a big part of their commerce. It made Babylon wealthy. And so this was done from their youth. And those people who you did business with, who you trusted to lead you right down the right path, they will wonder about when judgment comes. Each in his own direction, lost as they can be. And there will be no one there to save you. My question is, who are you putting your trust in to save you, to bring you your salvation? Who are you putting your trust in? Can you be successful and not lose your religion? Can you be successful and not waver from your faith? That's what God is asking us. And you have to remember, you say, well, how does this apply to us? Babylonian was worldly and fleshly. You and I struggle with the flesh and struggle with the world. Okay? We may not be a nation, but we live in a worldly world full of temptations. And God is calling us to trust Him no matter what in the midst of living in this world. Some people become successful and they forget about God for years until God brings them back in. Don't let that happen to you. Some people raised up in knowing God, they go away, be successful, do their own thing. And when their life comes to an end, they wonder if God's going to ever accept them back. God will do that. But the object is, stay humble when God blesses you. Stay humble when you feel you know you have God's favor. Trust God. And if you are Israel, remember Israel was going through this judgment because of idol worship, because they were betraying God. They were putting other things before God, and God did not like that. And if we do the same thing they did, God will bring judgment upon us. He will discipline us in order to make us better. He will do that. But it doesn't have to happen. Trust Him. No matter what God does in your life, how much He blesses you, remember where you came from. Remember who God is. Well, thank you for joining me. I've enjoyed this time we had together. May God richly bless you. Hope something I've said will help you in your Sunday school lesson with your teacher or student. Leave a comment in the comment section. If you have something you'd like to glean from this lesson, I would definitely like to hear it. God bless you. I'll see you next week. Love you much.